He is a very good outside. Shooter, I think he's at his best when he gets into the paint. Kuzma outside. From outside off the mark. For Denver, they've gone 1-3 with a field as hard as much. To Hardaway. Here's Magic. Shot clock at 5. A three. The rebound time clocks. They come into this one following the loss to the Thunder. Yeah, a snowball effect. Yeah, they just committed too many mistakes in both games. But credit their opponent for being disruptive. Here's Magic. Well, when Murray is passing the ball to his teammates, they are after the back. Well, now, let's take a second to catch up with Allen LaForce on the sideline.
Well, I had to get to help with the Thunder first. When asking him about their key to success, he immediately turned to Jamal Murray. Close their position of their operation. If you want to slow them down, you go for the head of the snake. Ask Jamal. Keying in on the orchestrator sounds like a good plan. We'll see if they execute it. Back to you.
Great work as always, Allen. Thank you. Murray for three. The rebound by Trey. Milwaukee leading by 3. And MVP with the basket on the assist by Trey. Well, high percentage looks are always a good idea. MP could build a career on shots like that if you want. Murray the finish to Hardaway. Inside. Here's Magic. Puts it out to Johnson. After Murray. Three-pointer. Kubo. Well, he certainly had trouble finding the marquee. Turner needs Turner functioning out. And also have a start to extend this lead. Well, look, we've seen that no lead is safe these days. You got to keep scoring and extending that margin. Down low. Murray against MVP. Outside Turner. MV's got 8 assists on the game. Tonight is trail by 10. And this summer, Carmelo Anthony inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. The former third overall pick by Denver back in 2003. He plays 7 seasons with the Nuggets, his longest stretch with any team, representing the 4 times, and he also brings outside. Turner with a screen on Murray. Out to Turner. There's the triple. Rebound by Murray. Denver's gone over through from three-point land. Nothing yet going outside. After Najee. The Nuggets moving the ball around. On the way, a screen on him with Kubo. Johnson against Kuzma. Fires from Murray. Johnson, 8 minutes to go. Well, that one should be in his wheelhouse, but just off the mark. Kuzma finds Kubo. Screen by Giannis. MVP passes to Giannis. And here's Kuzma. Back to MVP. And they force the shot clock violation. 3-2. Let's check out the Eastern Conference standings now that we're in the new year. You know what they go on? They're down the bottom of the conference. Fans hope they can turn around and show some improvement. Well, I think for Milwaukee, they have been one of the major surprises in the NBA this season. Unfortunately, for the wrong reason. Yeah, I just don't know what has happened to them. You get the sense that their frustration is starting to reach a breaking point, too. Out top on the list, Embiid.
And every team in the league needs a guy who can go and get. I mean, his great work on the floor is certainly endearing to the coaching staff.
Well, that is real light.
They need a bucket in a big way here for the games to come.
Final minute here for Murray. Hits it from three-point range.
Out.
Murray's got 7 points.
Time out.
Well, you got to love that play. Murray gets in the spot.
He's putting up 33 points a night, 14 rebounds and 4 assists. And the phrase stats don't lie absolutely applies here. He's been a monster on the court for this team.
Yeah, look, he is truly the kind of player you build everything around. He plays your lineup. It's all about setting this guy up for success. Guys in so that's the floor. Outside Underwood. To the middle. It's tipped. And it goes out of bounds.
And he jumped out to that ball immediately.
Apat lang.
Murray misses the Watson. Pass to Brown. Ongoing Warriors. Covered by Embiid. David goes in, and the Milwaukee League is back out two on the bucket from Murray. Swan the floor for them. Jamal Murray is out there with Tim Hardaway Jr. Then there's Christian Brown. Then there's Peyton Watson. And it's Holmes with the 5 down low. Force the screen. Down the 5 on the shot clock. Embiid on his bridge. Outside it from outside. Nuggets have gone 2 of 3 for the field here over the second quarter. And he gets it to go as they call him off.
Fuck.
One more. The Warriors strength and focus. Brown exhibiting both right there. Good try. That did it for the Nuggets. For Denver, this is a 3 free throws so far. That is his game.
Big man, really remembered all season.
Now the Nuggets get on the development of young Christian Brown. And he has rewarded their faith. He has developed
Putang ina mo.
He certainly has. Probably has even exceeded what their expectations were.
Mga paputang ina mo.
He's such a hard worker.
Bobo.
He's smart. He's tough.
Size.
All about it. Embiid passes the Prince. Back to Embiid.
Inang mga basahan niya, no? Look!
Beautiful.
Time out. Putang ina yung
18 points.
shit. Inuwan tayo mga kupal.
for the deep on the three. John away. Good on three. If you don't want to give up that kind of look, it's tipped. Now, here's Watson. The latest numbers he's averaging about 6.5 points a game. Here's Murray. That shot busy. Great D that time for Portis. Embiid passes to Portis. Back to Embiid. Pass to Antetokounmpo. 6 on the shot clock. The Bucks need to get a shot at Embiid.
Ina mo! Tangina mo!
Now, covered by Embiid.
Sila.
He uses his size there to make sure he gets that good.
Pass to Prince. Back to Embiid. Portis is screen on Brown. Outside Portis. Murray. Shot is good. Another lead is back to just one on the basket from Portis. Portis has got his second bucket of the night. Madison on 6 of 11 from the floor. Over 50% shooting here in the second quarter. Murray the bench tonight.
Uy!
Straight out.
Oh, he got fancy with that one.
Now, maybe trying to give them the momentum boost they need to bring this game open. Let's see the connected triangle on that stunning play. Brought to you by AT&T. Kuzma can't get it to go.
All the time in the world to get that one off.
Here's Murray. And give off the blast. Murray's got 9 points now.
Woo!
Get to a nice move offensively here in the second.
Outside, Antetokounmpo. Away to Kuzma. Pass to Embiid. Trying to shoot. Antetokounmpo, a screen on Murray. Gets it. Murray to great delivery on the ball. Embiid with a good sense of honor. So get it out and
Shoutout sa nanonood sa akin. Shoutout at hello sa iyo. How are you?
checked in for the Nuggets. Away is Kuzma. Outside Hardaway.
Uy! Ano ba yan? Bakit naman nabigay sa inyo?
Sinner, he's maybe undersized, but his ability to be in the air and make a play. Kuzma outside.
Dewa.
Embiid's got assist number 8 now on the night. Back to Hardaway on deep. Kubo pulls it in. Styles has got his fifth rebound right now in the game. More good work.
Nick!
Last year, but all season long, I think rebounding might tell the story in this game.
Tuyo. Okay.
Here's FP. Pass to Kuzma. Here's Prince. Prince gets the screen for Price. Prince takes the
Tangina mo.
And now the Nuggets. That's great. Here's Murray. Oh, look there. Some solid defense.
Yeah.
Clemson by 13 the second quarter. Well above the 50% mark from the field. And he'll never break an all-star, but he is a star. Jamal Murray can flat out play. And these players that are so
Ano? Kain.
Denver with the ball. Defeated by the Wizards in their last game. They'll try to put that one behind them.
And the one thing that he'll be looking to change is the downtime and his three-point percentage. It's taken a hit here the last few games. I know he's putting in extra work.
Hey man. Ay. Ah. Uy, utang na dalawa. Gago puta. Dalawa ito. Sino ito puta kaya mo? Dali. Bang bang. Oy oy.
Some guys shrink in mid-moment, and some rise to the occasion. Watson dishes to Hardaway. Murray for three. That one's not good enough. And Peters for two. And that shot was up in time, but doesn't do it. Now there's Hardaway. He's feeling it tonight, and he's in the final quarter.
Yeah, boy. Halftime, all 51 guys. All 51, halftime.
We'll get right back to the action when we return. Welcome to our halftime show. Some excellent basketball so far, but Denver in a close game. Well, you can't speed them up. They take care of that basketball and maximize the value of the best in the And how about we move it on over for a preview of who we might be seeing? And that is a wrap. Now let's send you back to Kevin Harlan. Just joining us, we've went through the first half of the game that's been fairly even so far. It's been one outstanding game from Jamal Murray.
His play so far is what fans love about him. He has gone right at the defense time and time again.
Yeah, he hasn't been settling.
Utang na no. Uy, ano di ba yung sa roon? Hindi ito pinakabalak pa rin gagawin yan.
Daniel sideline looking on the West gives you up on the story about Cam Johnson. Will he take it away?
The guys that have a trainer for that provides let me know that it's a straight hip, which causes plenty of soreness and strain pain in that area. Although it takes some time to complete the recovery from this injury, these steps has given him the green light to play on it.
Now he bounces over. Injuries take a middle toll as well. These guys all want to be contributing to the best of
magkakabit pa, puta.
And Greg is a former point guard in this league. Give us your top 4 generals of all time. The guys that can direct the floor and can control the game.
Wow, I think if we're talking traditional point guard, I gotta go there. I'll say Freaky Breeze in that conversation. Listen to him. But I gotta simply for that fact, I agree with that. Right? Gotta do guys like Steph, Iverson, West, and the great Oscar Robertson. Where you'll see him as such an open look.
Shout out kay Buboy. Hello.
Number one, well, you have to praise their defense over the last month. They've been working as a team to put almost constant pressure on opposing offenses.
Uy! Parang nabayaan naman, oh.
Rubbing it in their faces.
He is never going to take it and put up with it. Yeah, they're not pulling any punches here. Even the guards are attacking now. It's slowing down. Hardaway,
Uy!
Hardaway gets it.
Forcing the ball inside and it's working like a charm.
Plays another timeout called by Tucker. He's going to take this chance and go to his guy.
First and three-point shooting. And not many players can put opportunities inside as well as deep. Top 15 in field goal percentage.
And not only is he hitting for deep, he's doing it with great consistency. One of our league's most efficient three-point shooters. First trip to the free throw line for him in this one.
Pasok mo, ha?
So far this season, shooting 75% from the line.
And both free throws are good for Prince. Leonard gets beaten by 5. Here's Murray. Richmond pulls it in. Milwaukee's gone 4-2 for deep to start things here in the second half. Prince outside. Antetokounmpo passes to Trevor. And Antetokounmpo picking up
Wala yan, guys.
Antetokounmpo's got 4 assists in the game.
Pag delikado, di. Pwede yan.
One guy will be energetically going for that block.
Open shot by Murray. Kuzma pulls it in. Kuzma's got his foot down and that's where he's tonight. Outside, Antetokounmpo. Turner with a screen on Johnson. And out of bounds.
Ano ka nang po si Antetokounmpo naman parang mong gago? Sobrang hanap sa pwesa.
Coming up for the Milwaukee Bucks on Sunday. They'll face off against Anthony Davis and the Dallas Mavericks. And then on Tuesday, all taking on Tyrese Maxey and the Philadelphia 76ers.
I think you have to look at this as an opportunity to take a step forward. Sometimes tough road trips can bring the best out of a team and bring you closer to the other.
Clearly, it has been best thing offensively, but collectively, it's stretched out the way of the league. That time, you know, easier for everyone else.
Hindi na sa pinagsigan mo, hindi na sa eskwela.
Progressing in a certain way, maybe as we get closer and closer to touchdown.
Turn over the screen unhurried. And B gets the turn. Set. And stolen by Prince. That's for Kuzma. And it goes up
Ang bobo niyo, utang ina niyo. Utang ina ang Kuzma to, bobo, utang ina. Hindi mo Kuzma, bobo niyo. Ayun.
They're way down there in the conference camp, looking for a lot of improvement in the second half of the season.
And I think Fort Denver, they have been one of the major surprises in the NBA this season. Unfortunately, for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I just don't know what has happened to them. I get the sense that their frustration is starting
Yo!
to break down too.
Challenge, challenge. Challenge, sorry.
Those being like this, I thought it was a good call.
Challenge.
The action is so fast that it's really tough to catch everything in real time.
Well, wonders of technology, we've seen replay reviews so effectively, and involving the coaches by being able to challenge the
Utang ina stance. Bago.
Bad trip, guys.
Double checking the game continues on.
Pwede ka pala.
This one falls for. There's so much Jamal Murray brings to the table offensively. He is such a critical piece of their puzzle. Great over the last 9 seasons.
Nice one.
Provides for the second most games of the regular season. I mean, dominant runs in these zero. And that's what makes him the franchise's second ever title. That is no word. Those are the things you can never take away. Here's Nelson. Mark there with a three-point shot.
And what happened in the backcourt in this game? What kind of surprise is such a great game?
Kuzma outside. Doesn't go. They had a chance though to take the lead. In the front, Holiday with it. Good, and the assist goes to Murray. Murray's got 9 assists now tonight. Warren's got one right in Holiday's rebound. Bobby Portis is checked in for Amazon Vancouver. And Denver also making the switch. Vincent's checked in. Prince outside. Portis kicks to Prince. Nice ball from Whip on the arm. Just 5 on the clock. Outside Jordan. Beyond the arc. And Brown puts it down. On the way is Kuzma. Things it out the wing. Still scoreless. On the way, Harlow. Turning with his foot. Still by 4. Wemby with it. He's Prince on the way.
Utang ina ang buhay ko. Oo. Tangina mo.
From 13.
Tangina.
And Alvarez is the Bucks lead possession.
Usma.
Yeah, make no mistake. We're watching a special guy here, and his numbers only fell a fraction.
No good. It's almost like he's trying to make things hard on himself. He's just got to slow the game down. It's an easy one. And then
Here's Vincent. Over from outside, and the defender obviously with the bump in, but couldn't knock it down. And here is Embiid. The lead last third over Hardaway and turnover assist by Embiid. Sooners got 10 points in the quarter. Yeah, this quarter is all about him. He's just dominating at the offense. Johnson outside. Outside of the 3-1 range. Well, so far in the second half, he hasn't been able to get another three to fall. Now, here's Embiid. Outside Portis. Turner for three. Rebounded by Naki. Naki's got 60 pounds here tonight. Hardaway passes to Vincent. After Naki. Durant has to get a shot off it. Here's Vincent. Milwaukee with the rebound. Kuzma's got a 6 rebound on the night. Outside Turner. Embiid just was already for breaks. Gives the opportunity to do so. Now it's off the court. Milwaukee lead.
yeah, that's too good a look to give them from behind the arc.
So here they are, Memphis trying to call a timeout here. He's going to need some adjustments to the game plan.
Nice one.
Hardaway against Prince. Hardaway passes to Brown. Murray for three. Brings it from 17 feet out. And that's now 35 points for Jamal Murray.
He has definitely shown up to play. He's done his part. Really just trying to battle this game back into it.
Swan the floor for them. They got Christian Brown. Jamal Murray is out there with Hardaway. And it's Johnson. It's Hockey in at the center, walking down the middle. Here's Johnson. And it's there with a chance to cut the lead to single digits. Here's LP. Now this up front. Back to LP. There's 5 to shoot. Boston now have the official call to foul, making it the way well. James Johnson back one up.
Just too much dots there. We're seeing why they aimed it to the great lead.
There's so many things Nuggets now. They trail by 16. 2 free throws coming up, and they call the sheriff out. Knows how to go out there and beat those teams. And so, and you look at all the great European players. Some saying that keeps the government in the U.S. But anyway, us fans are looking for expertise in their system. Well, it's already going in that direction. It's able to invest in those players from their early team. We are getting the quality of things that are over there. They are, no doubt, improved. Well, it's trailed by 16. Raji passes to Hardaway. Stay away. Rebound, Milwaukee. So he's got the rebounds in the game. We believe in them on both the sport court and the back. Well, we've seen that plenty of teams out of that. Easy bucket in the paint. Johnson outside. To Hardaway. Inside. Here's Johnson. Highlight reel onto himself, guys. That could be a contender for the dunk of the year, I think. And another look at that last play with the AT&T connected team. Kuzma outside. And another assist for him. That makes 15 assists. He's been one step ahead of the defense all day long. Pass to Brown. Hurry a screwed on Prince. Brown the bounce pass. Raji passes to Johnson. Hurry outside. And it comes back with the three was home. So much for repeating this three-point barrage he put on in the first half. Nothing here, even the second. And B passes to Turner. Now, Brown. Says Hardaway bringing up the assist. Hardaway's got 5 assists in the game.
Well, far from just a jump shooter, Brown is also more than capable of finishing inside.
Pass to MB. Prince outside. Pocket 6. To the Kuzma. Johnson with the rebound. Johnson's got his 5th rebound right now in the game. Hardaway. All right, we'll take a look now. Now the points have been generated so far. A score per down for the Bucks.
They've been holding the painting area offensively. I love the intensity they're playing with this.
And another thing they've been doing all game long is knocking down the three. Shooting has been a big part of their game plan tonight. And B with it. Center right Jones. And here is MB. Giannis looks at his second shot clock violation, so they'll turn it over. And that's a quick look at that slam from our AT&T connected team. Well, that is trailed by 16. Murray with it. Now defended by MB. Three-pointer. Good. And they are living and dying beyond the arcs at halftime. Bucks leading by 13. Now, here's a kick. Screen by Antetokounmpo. It's Turner. On the clock. The three. Until he goes off. I don't know the ball. Well, that is trailed by 16. And stolen by MB. Antetokounmpo outside.
from outside.
And so just rolling to the finish line now is what has been a very confident looking performance for the Bucks.
You know, a team can have great shooting night without getting a lot of assists, but tonight they had both.
Yeah, and listen, you only get the assist, but the guy you give it to makes the shot. So allowing assists will up your field goal percentage. So this is a great team effort by everyone.
And in terms of the season, this is going to be their 18th win overall.
A two-game season series may lend them both a complete defeat.
And watch them all night long. No one could really stop him. Just another excellent game of life for Giannis Antetokounmpo. He had really stood out tonight before it got the glass. You can see the extra effort coming through. 6 to shoot. Antetokounmpo. Johnson rips down the board. There's 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Finishes inside on the nice pitch. Here's MVP. Guys, they can just sit on the ball here if they want to.
They may have heard this win.
Monday to Wednesday or Thursday to Saturday. Once your 3 days are complete, you'll have 4 days off. Every single week. More time for family, more time for yourself, more time to enjoy life. The government believes this will lead to better.
Oo. Oo.
knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang gaan ng hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. It's right.
Regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction po sir regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa blank item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without blank. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's a lie.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yung
reaction sa inyo, sir, regarding sa allegation po ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
he's lying. He's the president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without with a blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, It's right.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yun.
reaction ko sa sir regarding sa allegation mo ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any without blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yun.
reaction ko sir regarding sa allegation mo ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any without blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA nang hindi nakalagay kung ano yung project at saka ano yung gastos, ano yung pondo. So, it's right.
Yung reaction sa inyo regarding
Yun.
reaction ko sir regarding sa allegation mo ni former President Duterte regarding sa black item.
He's lying. He's a president. He knows that you cannot pass a law without any without blind. He's lying. He's lying because he knows perfectly well that that doesn't ever happen. Sa kasaysayan ng buong Pilipinas, hindi pinapayagan na magkaroon ng item ang GAA ng
Umuulan ba? Hindi pala eh. Kanina pa pala. Ay, sobrang init pa. Kaya tagaan. Paano na paano? Huwag mo kamay nito pa. Paano? Mainit pa oh. Okay na sa'yo, Peter. Subukan ka. Oo, mainit pa na. Hawa mo. Oo. Diyan. Ano pa nag-elip mo? Nakatapon. Estudyante ka. Ay, kami doon nila Ryan. Tapos na isa eh. Isang
Ay,
grupo.
kanin ito.
Tapos na isang grupo. Kami na. Kapag may penitensya na kahiga. Isiriyak sa nakahiga na eh.
Yan din ah.
Isiriyak sa nakahiga na. Kasi ang mga lalaan ko po sa dalawa. Si Kuya may siya. Pero si Ryan na. Pero hindi pa na. Si Roxanne na yung nakahiga. Pero hindi itong talo. Ano ito penitensya? Pero nasaktan ko talaga. Nagay na. Teacher, meron mo ang park attack. Teacher daw yun. Mga professor. Pero hindi. Lumakas ako.
Kami ganitan.
Kasi
Akala ko totoo mo.
alam ko man yun yun. Ano?
May chef bro.
Hmm?
Bigyan mo rin siya.
Yan.
Then,
Doon.
ano?
Paano sila ako doon? Pero ano yung parang may grades? Pag ikaw man, bagsak ka. Pero nanakit. Nakasa mo din. Yan na.
Mac bro.
Ano mo na, ano?
Cream soup. Eh? Mushroom soup. Creamy mushroom soup. Bro.
Ulan, Ben?
Ba't naman ako dito sa classroom?
Sabi tayo. Ay, sa bahay. Di ba na-operahan? Alala mo na? Yung bungkol? Minsan, pwede yung mga anak. Di ba pinag-aaralan mo sa science? Pero tinanggalan niya yung ano niya pala dito.
Si Alip wala. Ano na yun?
Ano?
Charlie. Nakawag ko sa akin. Then, masok ko siya.
Kaso mo.
Oo. Sinabi ko nga.
Kamu yung Bernard?
Then, sinabi ko na. Mabuti. Ano kung ano mo siya diba?
Doon laki yun.
Ano diba?
Anong grade yun?
Bakit kami?
Saan?
Ano? Ano?
Ay, mga kulay yung sinito. Alam mo, maliit lang yun. Alaki yun.
First time
Sila. Huwag na po overweight. Kaya nga, kaya ayaw tayo ng loob. Pero ayaw ko lang ako. Basta tayo overweight. Ano yung mga Ilocano yung mga... Di ba Ilocano mga Pilipin? Apat sa kabala ko eh. Mga Ilocano Ilocano, hindi nyo overweight kasi nga, pero pag kabilang, ano mo nangyari, alangan ng araw, hindi na makain. Ganito ulam, ito yung ulam mo.
Ba't gano'n? May ganun sa pinakama natin na
Kaya nga nila, buong Marcos. Ulit-ulit ka. Bakay, puro laki lang nakikita mo.
kahit na wala ako.
Yung buhay natin, na napakalapit.
Hindi ba tapos na ng iba? Wala naman akong okay, pero nakaranasan natin.
Oo. Ang
Wala may
ay yung mga nagtabali, di ba? Ito yung mga nagtabali.
makaalis na sila sa sabi ito, no, at okay pa rin si Alice ko, kahit namura ko, naramdam ko, dadalak ko na pagkakas. Hindi ka tulad ito, hindi naman.
Alam mo yung pistado.
Ah, yung ba yung tayo?
Ano yun?
Ay! Ano ba yan? Oo, ulit tapos para hindi ka ano, hindi lang daan. Kayo, ano, kayo. Yung itong anak ko niya, yung ano, yung muli na lalaki na.
Yung kausap ni Maguela.
Ini-interview na ba siya?
DOT sa rin. Kasi makikita sa vlog eh. Makikita sa video. Kasi dito sa dito na.
Ang ilog niya parang sa recto dahil yun o, abad sa tapos kung nilaan yung school, di ba hindi yung recto, laan na ng sasakyan. Di ba hindi yung tumarumi doon? O sige, malinis yun. Pagtakot ng gano'n, sumunod na laan. Medyo bata-bata. Lahat na lang ang babae ko sa kanya. Hindi kami yung ano ko. Parang, kaya napapansin ko lang, may nakapapansin sa kanila. Kapag nakapasan, pag tinignan mo wala, pero nakikita ko may nakapasan na. Tapos yung content mo sa kulay, yung mga pinaan. Oo, ang bilis namin. Parang kapag yung babae, ginawa ko na una akong tumakbo tayo, umakyat pa ako ng mudan.
Ano yung nakasunod ba? Tao rin. Tao lang sa pala.
Parang kamparin niya.
Mas taguro ganun.
Taguro, yun na yun. Alipin. At ako kasi yung penitensya, gabi na nun eh. Itatali ka dito na may bakal. Yung bakal may ngipin, nakita ko ganun ko, dito yung gayo ko. Yung mga lalaki na gusto sa stage, dalawang paan, di ko yung kasi ako sila kang gana. Sir, pwede ka lang meron po ang panito. Sabi na sa races na sabi ko, kasi ilang ko ba yung mga doon? Eh, hindi sabihin mo, pero wala, ano eh, lagpas ka na sa ano, binila naman na sa races.
Sa palagay?
Oo, lagpas na ako, mga 6 months na lang, sobrang na raw sa, ano, ng panik attack ko. Ay, sa panik tumatanggi.
Ay, sa palagay, hindi pa rin putang.
Kasi may papareceive siya, pero hindi office, iba talaga eh. Basta sa, ang anak ko, pulis siya. Ako, kailangan ko ba mga doon? Kasi may panik attack ko eh. Pag ningin, ito, tinuha ko yung sulat ko, yun na yung nasa dilo ko, yung hospital. Pag ano yun. Pero sige, sabihin mo doon, eto siro. Eh, naku, ulit eh, kasi ano eh. Nagpas ka na sa ano eh,
Pati sa palagay. Pati sa palagay, pupalang po ka niya muna.
Eh, sa race ka. Pag ano ka nga niya pare, kasi may mga dugo yung hinigaan ng ano, nananakit yung pinakaunang logo, nananakit mo nila.
Tayo makikita.
Pinatuloy ako.
Ha?
Hindi ako. Ako sige, iiyak pa, nangina ako. Nangina ako parang mas. Tapos bago pagkatapos nun eh, natamang ko kami ng kapatid ko doon babae. Sure, takot yun ako, ito. Kasi no, kambal niya ka. May nakapanong sa akin. Tingnan sa isa, ano, sa tubig. May bakit ako talaga? Hindi kinaangon na tayo ko daw. Tapos na mauna ako dahil, ay mauna yung kapatid ng babae. Yun na ako, takot ako eh. Tapos pinupunta ko ng bagal. Ang tigat. Ano ang kaya? Hindi na pa rin ako ulit. Natakot. Tapos yun yan si Recto yung layot.
Yung riot.
Pero kabilang side, papunta ng Divisoria, pagpakita ka na. Kabilang side ako, right? Pang-right siya, pang-right. Takot. Grabe pala ang ano, Thailand, no?
Bakit?
May lugar yung Thailand na parang mabili. Nakakalit yung mga babae, no?
Ah. Puro bakla yun.
Ha?
Puro bakla yun.
Ah, okay.
Sila yung pinaka-ansa pa. Ano mga bakla.
Parang siyang mabini. Yung siguro ginaya ng ano, ng Philippines. Yung mabini.
Ginaya ng ano.
Philippines, marami nakatambay ng mga
Actually, ang gaya Thailand, ginaya nila Red City ng Netherlands.
Ah, may ganun din ba ang Netherlands? Yung mga nakatambay ng mga ano.
Parang statwa, nasa ano sila? Bibili mo sila ganun.
Ah, hindi ito pang mabini style eh. Nakakalat. Parang may mga Pilipina eh.
Red City. Wala mga kalamihan dyan, ikaw.
Oh, kumakain.
to 2K Sports and another exciting edition of NBA Ball. And in our matchup tonight, we'll see the Milwaukee Bucks going up against the Dallas Mavericks. With Hall of Famers Grant Hill and Doris Burke, this is Brian Anderson joining us from the sideline. You look at this on paper and it feels like one-way traffic, Doris. Could this be a trap game?
It sort of has that feeling, PA. A big underdog going against a big-time favorite. But here's why we play the game. Any given night in this league, anything can happen.
And now Dallas' starting group. A pair of first overall picks in the front court. Flagging Davis. Dante Exum is out there with D'Angelo Russell. And it's Lively in at the 5.
I'm out.
MP with it. To the left side wing. It's stolen by Lively. Nice ball movement by Dallas. Here's Davis. The rebound by Turner. Here's Milwaukee. They're coming off the win against the Nuggets.
Yeah, and that one came down to their rebound. There was a big gap between the two teams there.
That was a coach's dream, to get that kind of effort and intensity on the glass and for it to pay those kinds of dividends, critical.
The three for Russell. Again, that's by Dallas. And so MP will bring it up for the Milwaukee Bucks. Turner, the high post. Stolen by Davis. Pass to Russell. Jacks up a three. Inside. Rebounded by the Bucks. And just around a minute and a half into this first quarter. Here's Prince. Now MP. 6 to shoot. Here's Antetokounmpo. The Bucks need to get up a shot here. And here's MP from outside.
Gelap. Beda.
Davis for the rebound. Dallas has gone 0 for 3 from downtown. That's still likely. Kuzma with the defensive effort.
Oh, he missed the chippy. What are the odds? That's so frustrating.
Antetokounmpo, a screen on Russell. Back to Antetokounmpo. Now here's MP. Screen by Antetokounmpo. MP, the pass to Antetokounmpo. Cash. It's MP picking up the assist.
And Giannis has a ridiculous combination of size, skill, and athleticism.
So Jason Kidd decided to call timeout here. And we might see some changes. Coach potentially looking to adjust. Okay, a chance to look at some numbers for Anthony Davis.
And over the last 10 games, he's been hitting the boys hard. He's been a different guy when it comes to rebounding. Out there battling and fighting. It's great to see that kind of hustle.
And by drafting Cooper Flag, the Mavericks regaining some of the long-term upside they lost with the Luka trade doors.
And by every metric and evaluation, Cooper is ready to play and contribute right now, and obviously hope down the line he can take over the mantle of franchise player.
probably a good idea in such a close contest.
People were worried that this was
Previous play is under review.
game. The NBA was smart to adopt this challenge policy in 2019.
You know, one thing this does for a coach is let his players know.
After the review, the ruling of the board is overturned.
Let's take another look. So they see clear evidence of a bad call and will overturn it. Probably the right decision.
And give credit to the officials for recognizing the mistake and correcting it. Nobody likes to say they got it wrong, but they fixed it in a hurry.
Punta naman kasi no. Dami ng turnover, kung ginagawa ito.
Excellent outside. Pass to Lively. Davis down low. Antetokounmpo's there. The game now all tied up.
And when Davis gets that kind of positioning inside, he is pretty much automatic.
Gives us a chance to catch up with Allie LaForce.
I was able to spend a few minutes with Doc Rivers. I asked him how they prepared for this matchup against Anthony Davis. The coach responded saying, you have to prepare for his impact on both ends. Offensively, he's terrific around the rim and pretty much unguardable when his jumper is long. Defensively, he doesn't know.
Team to report, Allie.
That's just MP reading the defense, going through his progression, and making the right play.
Antetokounmpo against Davis. 6 on the shot clock. And it was kicked in the lane there. He gets a 3-second call. The Bucks have gone 3 of 4. Off to a nice start. And here's MP. He's scoreless. Turner, screen on Russell. Pass to Turner. For 3. And the rebound goes to Dallas.
And you never want to give a shooter like him a clean look.
Fade away. That one a little long.
Boy, this guy has completely lost his focus. Nothing working.
Antetokounmpo, a screen on Russell. Back to Kuzma. Clock at 6. To the paint. Stolen by Davis. Here's Flag. Defended by Kuzma. Lively with it. Checking his stats. He's scoring around 9.5 points per game. The shot by Russell is no good.
Boy, that is tough defense. Exactly how you want to play him.
On the wing, Kuzma fires the 3. And it's Flag with the rebound. The Mavericks trailing. Pass to Russell. Davis with screen on MP. Russell pass to Davis. And Davis slams it home.
You talk about guys that like to go right to the rim. AD is towards the top of that list.
Here's MP. Hasn't gotten one to fall yet. On the wing, Kuzma. MP outside. Just 5 to shoot. Antetokounmpo for 3. And again, it's the Bucks missing. Dallas has gone 0 for 3 from downtown. Russell against MP. 3-pointer. The shot by Russell, no good.
This guy just simply can't find his rhythm. Sometimes that happens.
I love how they've attacked the boards here in the first quarter.
Excellent outside. Some nice ball movement by Dallas. So they take the lead. And the map. lead by 2.
This guy, an effortless scorer, outside, inside, in between, dynamic scorer is D'Angelo Russell.
And now that we're halfway through the season, it's the perfect time to take a peek at the Rookie of the Year race. Let's see who the top rookies are so far. You look at Flag, and he's demonstrated some tremendous skill so far. We're smack in the middle of the season, and he's just one spot back from the top.
With about half the season behind us, it's clear how much potential he has to blossom into a star.
Now, one thing we know for sure, Porter Brady is the Rookie of the Year over the second part of the season. I can't wait.
Russell pass to Davis. Back to Russell. Let's go with a 3. Drains the triple. Russell's got his second bucket of the night.
D'Angelo Russell is not afraid to make some big-time momentum-swinging shots. Nice to see him answer back right there.
And so time out here by Doc Rivers. You might have seen something he needs to review with this guy. Teams in the NBA this season. Second, the Mavericks.
They're quick to help each other, and they have some tremendous athletes with a nose for the ball.
The Bucks have gone 4 of 9 in this one so far. Kuzma outside. 3-pointer off the mark. And so Davis will bring it up for the Mavericks. And he lobs it up. And finished off by Davis.
And you love how effortless Davis makes this look. Rising up for an alley-oop like it's nothing.
Here's MP. Still no points. Antetokounmpo outside. Pass to Kuzma. Over flag. It's Kuzma with the miss. Dallas leading by 4. And they've been producing at a high level.
No question. They're in a nice rhythm offensively.
Davis in long range. Antetokounmpo grabs the board. Antetokounmpo's got 4 rebounds now.
He just hasn't found much consistency from the floor. But his teammates have picked up the slack.
Turner, screen on Davis. Pass to Turner. 3-pointer. Rebound, Anthony Davis. Davis has got his 4th rebound in this one. And here's Exum from outside the arc. Ooh, basket interference. He's checked in for the Bucks. Porter Jr. comes in for MP. Washington's checked. Changes. Bobby Portis is checked in for Turner. Prince comes in for Kuzma. And MP subbed in for Porter Jr. Dallas also making some changes. Flags checked in for Lively. And Exum subbed in for Russell. Here's MP. No points so far. Anthony has to Antetokounmpo. Giannis plays the 4 and Porter playing center. MP is out there with Anthony. And it's Prince in at the 3. Small forward. That's the 5 on the floor for the Bucks. And here in the second quarter of action, just a hair under 2.5 minutes played. Anthony left side. Here's Flag. Coming off a 22-point game against the Lakers.
And you know, guys, the other thing I really appreciated about his effort in that game was the effort and work on the glass. Well-rounded performance.
Portis, and a whistle on the shot. Got some contact there. This is the shot, but he'll shoot 2. And when it comes to taking an offense out of its rhythm, what are some of the primary methods, Greg?
Well, BA, you have to disrupt their flow. That can come from steals, deflections, block shots, even change shots. Anything that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Well, Grant, you gotta give the Bucks credit. 9 straight postseason appearances, the longest running streak in the league.
Yeah, but 3 straight first-round exits. I mean, you can tell the boat's taking on water, and tough decisions are required.
So critical that your big men be able to shoot free throws at a high rate.
Oh, what ferocity on the throwdown. I just love when he goes up with purpose.
Where was the D right there? The effort lacking big time.
Yeah, give him credit for taking advantage. In a close game, those are the types of plays that can swing things in your direction.
Big key, the pass to Anthony. Down to 5 on the shot clock. Antetokounmpo, screen on Thompson. Three-pointer Anthony. And the rebound goes to Dallas.
I've never seen him. I frankly have never heard of him. But I've seen and heard of him now.
You know the name. You've seen the speed.
4 punch, 5 punch, 6 punch combination. Body shot, bang, 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 bang.
The power.
Rockets killed it as a flyweight. To continue. To continue to carry this power.
The man who fought across 4 decades and climbed from flyweight to welterweight. And the only boxer in history to win world titles in 8 different weight divisions. A feat so rare, it may never be matched again. At least in our lifetime.
He also has a case for greatest fighter, pound for pound, who ever lived.
He didn't just collect belts. He forged rivalries and even went to war against legends. But he wasn't just a champion. He was the people's champ. The pride of a nation and the name they cheered as their own. But like most legends, he didn't start at the top. In fact, the odds were so stacked against him, he probably shouldn't have made it at all. Because long before the lights, the belts, or the name the world would come to know, he was just a boy trying to survive the day. And yet somehow, he rewrote boxing history. You probably already know fragments of his story. The headlines, the highlights, the peak of his legendary career. But let me tell you a different kind of story. A story not just of triumphs, but one that looks beyond the belts and the glory. His underdog story.
Former lightweight world champion, former super bantamweight world champion, former featherweight world champion, former super featherweight world champion, former lightweight world champion, former light welterweight world champion and reigning, defending WBO welterweight champion of the world, the fighting pride of the Philippines, Manny Pacquiao!
Pacquiao's fight didn't start in the ring. On December 17, 1978, in the remote village of Bukidnon, Emmanuel Dapadran Pacquiao was born into poverty. His family was so poor, their house looked like it might collapse in a strong wind. Manny was the 4th of 6 children, growing up in a home where scarcity was just part of life. His father, Rosalio, worked as a copra harvester, climbing coconut trees to scrape out a living. His mother, Janicia, tried to fill the gaps, selling peanuts and rice cakes at the local market. But even together, they were barely scraping by. So, in hopes of better opportunities, the Pacquiaos moved to General Santos in Manny's early childhood. But poverty followed, and so did the unrest brewing across the region. He was only 6 years old at the time, but according to an ESPN article, he still vividly remembers the sound of gunfire echoing around them. It was the kind of sound that doesn't just echo in your ears, it settles in your memory and stays there. But while gunfire faded, the growling in their stomachs never really stopped. On better days, they had bananas, root crops, or whatever his mother could scrape together. Even then, every bite had to be split carefully because most of the time, it wasn't enough. And when there was nothing else, warm water had to stand in for food. But adversity wasn't finished with him just yet. Not even close. When Manny was around 12, his father had an affair and walked out on the family. And just like that, his mother was left to raise 6 children on her own. The household, already stretched thin, fell deeper into desperation. Manny had to leave school behind and spent his days selling donuts, collecting scrap, doing anything he could to bring home a few pesos. He didn't even own a pair of shoes for most of his childhood, but like everything else at that point, he just adapted. His feet toughened against the rough ground, forming calluses like armor. He didn't know it then, but those same feet would become one of his deadliest weapons in the ring. He was learning endurance through hunger and discipline through hardship. All he needed now was a spark. That spark came one night when his uncle Sardo Mejia sat him down to watch a fight. Mike Tyson versus James Buster Douglas. It would go down as one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. And for most kids, it would have just been entertainment. But for Manny, it lit something deeper. Surprisingly, Manny had once thought about becoming a priest. But after that night, he couldn't stop thinking about boxing. He started watching every fight he could, not just for fun, but like a student, hungry to learn, and waiting for the day he'd get his own shot. Soon after, his uncle began training him in his spare time. He even cleared a space inside the house and built a simple makeshift gym. There was nothing fancy about it, just a punching bag and a pair of boxing gloves. And even though his uncle had no formal training himself, they both took it seriously. They trained under one simple belief: the most devoted would be the most rewarded. And they were dead right. But that part comes later. Way later. After 6 months of training, Manny was ready for more than just drills. He started fighting local matches at Oval Plaza Park in General Santos, testing himself against anyone willing to step into the ring. And he kept winning. Soon he was traveling to other cities to face higher-ranked opponents. Each fight another test, each win another step forward. But it was also around this time that he dropped out of school. With nothing left to fall back on, he poured everything he had into boxing. By the time he was 15, there was nobody left in the South who could challenge him. Then, a promoter told him he was good enough to fight anywhere in the Philippines and invited him to Manila. But there was no contract, and he couldn't offer money for his trip. As it turns out, he was just another young fighter in a long line of prospects. Still, that was all Manny needed to hear. And while his heart ached for the city he grew up in, for the mother he hadn't told, and the friends he might never see again, he had a dream. And he knew what he needed to do. The plan was simple: stow away on a ship to Manila, 500 miles north. Manny arrived in Manila filled with hope and determination. For a provincial boy used to jungle trees and dirt roads, the capital felt like another world entirely. He was amazed by the sheer volume of people rushing in every direction. The cars, the intersections, the sheer enormity of it all. But that didn't change the fact that he had no money, no place to stay, and no plan beyond a quiet conviction that there was something here for him. Something better. Because beneath the dazzling lights and busy streets, the city was also chaotic, unfamiliar, and indifferent to his struggle. At one point, he even considered begging for food, but the lessons his mother taught him always resonated with him. That is, to not take the easy way out. So instead of begging, he placed his bet on effort, and stubbornly found ways to keep going. He slept wherever he could, at the park, on a bench, or whatever spot he could find. And during the day, he walked the streets looking for work. Eventually, he landed his first gig, scraping rust off old metal at a local warehouse. It paid 160 pesos, a little over $6 US at the time, and while it wasn't much, it was a start. Enough to eat and enough to last another day. From there, he hustled wherever he could, hauling bricks, washing dishes, tending gardens, even learning to sew for a tailor just to stay afloat. Long before grind became a hashtag, Manny was living it for real. But he wasn't in it for clout or quick wins. He was just trying to survive. Because he came to Manila chasing a dream, and he never lost sight of that. And while that dream was still a bit of a long way at this point in Manny's life, he did find the bridge to that dream the day he met a man named Ben Delgado. Ben ran a modest gym in Manila, and while his uncle had coached him back in General Santos, Delgado was a formal trainer with real structure and real experience. The kind of guy who could take him to the next level. And Manny knew that, so he hounded Delgado, asking for a chance to train. But Delgado's first impression wasn't very promising. He gave Manny a once-over, shook his head and said, "You're too small to be a real boxer." Still, there was something about the kid he couldn't quite dismiss. So he gave him a chance and took him under his wing. He even allowed Manny to sleep in a tiny room next to the workout area. The room was pretty cramped, the kind that'll make you claustrophobic. But still, for Manny, it was enough. It kept him off the streets and, more importantly, within reach of the life he was chasing. He had no idea where this would lead, only that he had to follow it with everything he had. So he trained hard. Super hard. He'd run 6 or 7 miles, grind through drills, hit the bags, then do it all again. All this, while still holding down jobs to make ends meet, and even sending money back to his mom. He kept at it day in and day out, every single day, like a scene out of Rocky. Until finally, he made a decision. It was time to go pro. At 16 years old, Manny was still underage to fight in a professional match. But if you're wondering why he insisted on becoming pro way too early, let's rewind a bit. Manny had been fighting in amateur bouts since the age of 12. According to multiple sources, he racked up an amateur record of 60 wins and just 4 losses. Pretty impressive for a kid with no formal coach and barely any resources. And by the time he was 16, he was aiming higher, and he wanted to join the Philippine Olympic team. Unfortunately, he didn't make the cut. But that wasn't even the worst part. He found out that one of the team members was someone he had already beaten in the ring. Was it because he was too poor and had no connections? Too far from the capital? Or simply too unmarketable? Whatever the reason, he chalked it up to bad luck. But the politics of it all still left him disappointed. And it felt like his amateur career was going nowhere. So he made a choice. If the system wouldn't open up for him, he'd find another way in. And mind you, this all happened while he was still in General Santos, before he even set foot in Manila. I mean, think about it for a second. He went to Manila with almost nothing. Just the audacity to believe he could turn pro once he got there. Fast forward to where we left off. Manny was 16, still too young to go pro, and too light to qualify for the minimum weight class. So he lied about his age. And on the day of the weigh-in, he stuffed objects in his pockets just to make weight. It might sound absurd, maybe even borderline insane. But to him, it was simple. If he could just get the chance to step into the ring, he'd win. And he did. He was able to land his first professional fight through a grassroots boxing program called Blow by Blow, a weekly TV show that showcased local talent in modest venues. It didn't pay much, just a couple of dollars per fight, but it was enough to get his foot in the door. His slugger style turned heads, and his debut left a strong impression. But boxing isn't just about winning, it's also about risk. And not long after that first fight, reality hit close to home. A fellow fighter and close friend, Eugene Beartag, collapsed in the ring and later passed away. And this happened barely an hour before Manny was scheduled to step into the ring himself. It was a devastating moment that shook him to the core.
I don't know if I can come back to the family or not. I don't know.
And no one would have faulted him if he had walked away. And yet, he didn't. If anything, it reminded him why he had to give it everything. Because that night, his dream was no longer his alone. It's theirs now. His and Eugene's. Manny's debut fight was a good, solid performance. And from there, he didn't slow down. He racked up win after win, fight after fight. He even picked up a few knockouts along the way, earning buzz as an exciting young slugger with no fear in his step. And before long, he was 11-0, undefeated and still rising. Pretty wild considering he was underweight, not to mention underage when he first stepped into the pro scene. But then, this happened. In his 12th fight, Manny was matched up against Rustico Torrecampo and lost by knockout. He didn't see it coming, but something was already off going into that fight. He tried cutting weight like he always did, but still came in 1 pound over the limit. So he was penalized and had to wear heavier gloves. His body was growing faster than he realized. The KO loss was a rude awakening, yes, but it didn't take long for him to understand why it had to happen. He wasn't meant to win that night. He was meant to learn something. Something far more important than walking away with a win. And as it turned out, this loss was the spark that pushed him to start climbing and fighting in higher weight classes if needed. And maybe even climbing a little higher than he should have. But that's a story for a little later. Instead of falling apart after the loss, Pacquiao rededicated himself to training. And then he went on an impressive 15-fight unbeaten streak. And mind you, in these 15 fights, 14 of them ended in knockouts. He came back, and he came back harder than ever before. And trust me, people were about to notice. During that run, Pacquiao claimed the OPBF flyweight title, knocking out Chokchai Chokviva in the 5th round. He kept winning and knocking people out, and eventually, the right people started paying attention. Suddenly, a world title shot doesn't feel like a pipe dream anymore. And on December 4th, 1998, it happened. The 19-year-old Pacquiao traveled to Thailand to face WBC flyweight champion Chachai Sasakul. Sasakul wasn't just experienced. He was a technical discipline champion with a 32-1 record, fighting in his home country as the clear favorite. On paper, it looked like a mismatch. But once the fight started, it was closer than anyone expected. Nevertheless, Sasakul was actually winning in the scorecards. But then the 8th round came, and it left everyone stunned. This stunning victory over a seasoned, heavily favored opponent made Pacquiao the lineal flyweight champion, marking his rise from a local name to a true world-class fighter. And at just 19, he became the youngest Filipino to ever do it. It could have ended there, and honestly, it would have been a great story. Luckily for us, this wasn't even the peak. Not yet. It was just the first glimpse of how high he might go. But while his career was rising, something else was about to hit him too. And this time, he probably wouldn't mind taking the hit. In 1998, the young Manny returned to his hometown of General Santos City for a brief rest after a fight. That's when Ronaldo Zamora, friend and occasional training assistant, approached him with a question he didn't know would change his life forever. Would you like to meet my niece? And Manny, who always enjoyed meeting new people, casually agreed and headed to the local shopping mall, where Ronaldo's 19-year-old niece was working. But when they walked into the shop, Manny took one look and froze. Her name is Maria Geraldine Jamora, but everyone calls her Jinky. Manny, who's fearless and always moving inside the ring, just stood there, awkward and silent. If this were a boxing match, it would have been an instant knockout in the first round. Thankfully, Ronaldo did the talking, and while Manny didn't land a punch, he scored a dinner. And just like that, he had a reason to see her again. And the dinner went pretty well. They talked comfortably, shared ideas, and for Manny, that night was unforgettable. From then on, he kept finding reasons to see her again, and he got creative. He'd show up with breakfast, drop off dinner, and even try to win over her sisters. I can't speak for Jinky, but I think she was charmed by his quiet persistence. What stood out even more, though, was the way he talked about helping people, about wanting to give back. She was involved in church work and local charity herself, so those qualities in Manny resonated with her more than anything. And so the bond kept growing between the two, quietly but steadily. And on May 10th, 1999, Manny and Jinky got married. At this point, everything seemed to be going right for Manny. He was a world champion, and he had just married the woman he loved, and she loved him back. Nothing could go wrong, and he lived happily ever after. Except, real life doesn't work like that. Because just a few months after getting married, he failed to make weight at the weigh-in, forfeiting his WBC title before he could even face Medgun Singh Surat. And to top it all off, this happened. In the third round, Pacquiao went down from a body shot, and the ref stopped the fight. Anyone would be devastated by a loss like that. He had finally become a world champion, and then lost it in less than a year. But more than anything, this is the kind of moment that makes you second-guess yourself. The kind that makes you wonder, was that your peak? But unlike his past struggles, this time he didn't have to face it alone like he did when he first arrived in Manila. This time he had someone beside him, someone to help carry the weight. This time he had Jinky. He could turn it around and slowly rebuild from here. But then again, slow isn't exactly a word you'd use to describe Manny. Because right after the Singh Surat loss, he moved up in weight and seized the WBC International Super Bantamweight title with a knockout win. He defended that belt 5 more times, and every single fight ended in either a KO or a TKO. Through it all, he never stopped hoping for another shot at the world title. And then in 2001, the phone rang. It was half a world away from his home country, and on barely 2 weeks' notice. But it was a title shot. So of course, Pacquiao and his team didn't hesitate to take it. And just like that, the stage, the opponent, and the moment were set in motion. But none of them knew what was coming. Not even Pacquiao. In early 2001, the Lohanolo Ledwaba is pretty pumped, gearing up for another title defense. He's 33 and 1-1 with 22 knockouts, and looking every bit like a rising star. Some might even consider him the best 122-pound boxer in the world at the time. And at the rate he was going, names like Barrera or Morales wouldn't have been far off. I mean, he defended his title 5 times, knocked out 4 of those challengers, and held the belt for almost 3 years. And this next fight was shaping up to be another solid step forward. He was set to fight on the De La Hoya and Castillejo undercard, a big platform and a big night. But just 2 weeks before the fight, his opponent, Enrique Sanchez, got injured during sparring and had to pull out. Suddenly, Ledwaba's team had a problem. They needed a replacement, and they needed it fast. But for a fighter of Ledwaba's caliber, the risk was too high, and the notice was too short. If only they could find a ranked fighter bold and crazy enough to take the fight. Thankfully, or maybe unfortunately, they did. A kid from Asia accepted, and he happened to be a southpaw too, just like Sanchez. So it wouldn't require much of a change in game plan. It shouldn't be that different, right? Meanwhile, in a small gym in California, Freddie Roach was about to have his world turned upside down. His old mentor Eddie had warned him years earlier not to open a boxing gym because it's more trouble than it's worth. But Freddie did it anyway, and a couple years later, Muhammad Ali walked into his gym, spending 4 hours entertaining everyone, making it the greatest day the gym had ever seen. It taught Freddie a lesson. You never know who might walk through your door. It could be the next Ali or the next champion that will make history in your gym. But when a small guy walked in that day, thin, unassuming, clearly from one of the lighter weight classes, he didn't look like any of those things. His name is Manny Pacquiao, and he looked ordinary. Just another small fighter hoping to make it. He asked if Freddie would work the mitts with him. So they put on the gloves, and all it took was 1 round.
After 1 round of this with Manny Pacquiao, I said, wow, this kid can fight.
Freddie had felt thousands of punches in his career, but this was different. Speed and power. At that weight class, fighters usually have one or the other. But this kid had lightning-fast hands with freight train power behind every punch. But what came next would shock him even more. Curious about this unknown fighter, Freddie asked where he'd been training before. And the answer stopped him cold.
Well, he says, Freddie, I started in New York and I came across the country and I stopped at every gym I could. And everyone else turned me down.
Freddie had found something everyone else had missed. Over the next several days, they trained together, and with each session, Freddie became more certain of what he was witnessing. And he just knew. This kid was about to surprise the world. On June 23, 2001, Manny stepped into the MGM Grand in Las Vegas to fight one of the biggest fights of his career at the time. This was his first time fighting on American soil, and he was such an unknown commodity that even the commentary team couldn't get his name right. 60-1, or less than 2%. According to Freddie, that's what the odds makers thought of Manny's chances against Ledwaba. Heck, some sportsbooks even refused to take bets on the fight. As far as they were concerned, 2 weeks wasn't enough preparation for an opponent like Ledwaba. It was that obvious, and everyone knew how this would end. But when the opening bell rang, something immediately felt different. From the first exchange, Pacquiao looked sharper, crisper, and faster than anyone expected. He even bloodied Ledwaba's nose and landed the harder shots by the end of round 1. And by round 2, Ledwaba hit the canvas and was already in survival mode. You could even hear the commentary team's tone starting to change.
at the start.
Round after round, what was supposed to be a routine title defense became a one-sided beatdown. And by round 6, it was over.
Can they take care of it? And almost a resignation in the eyes of Red Robert. Yeah, Joe Cortez has seen enough.
2 knockdowns, and the referee declared a TKO. It was actually pretty satisfying when the same commentator admitted this.
I've never seen him, and frankly, I've never heard of him. But I've seen and heard of him now. And you want to see him again? I want to see him again. I do too.
That night, a 60-1 underdog rewrote the odds, and boxing insiders were suddenly paying attention to a new name. While the Ledwaba victory should have been the perfect launchpad, things can go sideways in boxing real fast. 4 months later, Manny found himself in San Francisco in one of the messiest fights in his career. An accidental headbutt in the early rounds opened a nasty cut above his eye, forcing him to fight with blood dripping down his face, fighting almost half blind. And on top of that, Agapito Sanchez kept hitting below the belt. George Foreman even thought Agapito should have been disqualified.
In your view, should Sanchez already been disqualified for this fight for a long time? Too many low blows.
When the doctor finally stopped the fight in round 6, they were forced to the scorecards. And the result? A controversial split draw. Technically, Manny kept his IBF title, but you could just tell from his expression that he was a bit disappointed and maybe even frustrated. But here's what separates good fighters from great ones. Setbacks don't break them. Over the next year, Manny went on an absolute tear. Jorge Julio, demolished. Faprakorb, Rakiatnum, lights out. Sarikjan, TKO finish. Emmanuel Lucero, one devastating left hand, and it was over. And then the call came. Marco Antonio Barrera was looking for his next opponent, and Manny Pacquiao's name had made it onto the list. Now, unlike Ledwaba, who was seen as a rising talent, Marco Antonio Barrera was a boxing royalty. This was the man who dismantled Prince Nassim Hamed and ended his undefeated streak. The same fighter who went toe-to-toe with the division's most dangerous names, guys like Eric Morales and Johnny Tapia. At this point in time, Barrera was widely considered the number 3 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and had a far better resume than Pacquiao. I mean, this guy racked up 57 wins and 40 knockouts, with multiple world titles in 3 weight classes. And to be clear, Barrera was not some washed-up legend coming into this fight. He was well within his prime. Pacquiao, on the other hand, had just moved up 4 pounds to featherweight, skipped the usual tune-up fight, and went straight to one of the world's best instead. He had some impressive wins, sure, but he'd never faced elite competition like this. So when the Vegas oddsmakers made Pacquiao a 4-1 underdog coming into this fight, everyone probably agreed. On November 15th, 2003, Manny walks into one of his biggest fights in San Antonio, and the sea of Mexican flags is overwhelming. It's funny because the Manny of today has won the hearts of many people, and is probably one of the most beloved and cheered boxer today. But at this point in time, the Coliseum is packed with 20,000 screaming fans, but about 95% of them are rooting against him. When Barrera's name was called, the crowd exploded.
Marco Antonio
One of the best receptions he'd ever received. Compared to that, Pacquiao's reception was lukewarm at best.
The challenger, the IBF Super Bantamweight Champion of the World, Manny Pacquiao.
The message was clear. Barrera's people were in the house, and this was his new hometown. I can only assume, but Manny must have felt like he just walked straight into enemy territory. 2 seconds into the fight, Manny slips on his own feet, but the referee signals a knockdown and started counting. And you can just see the confusion and frustration on his face. It's the worst possible start to the biggest fight of his life. But if you knew Manny, he wasn't about to take this lying down. He just stayed focused, fought his way back into the round, and didn't make a fuss about it. And while Barrera took the first round, it was obvious he had himself a real fight. But more importantly, Pacquiao was getting more aggressive as the fight went on, and he was winning exchanges with his hand speed. It's like Manny had too much speed for Barrera. Surely he wasn't getting overwhelmed, was he? But then, this happened. When Barrera got up, you could see it in his eyes. This kid wasn't messing around. He was looking to take his crown, and he might be in serious trouble. From that point on, Pacquiao unleashed a suffocating storm of punches. And round after round, the punishment continued. You could even feel Barrera's frustration.
It's the first time I've ever seen Barrera so physically rattled.
The crowd that was once drowning the stadium in cheers grows quieter with each passing minute. By round 11, Barrera was still fighting with his heart, but he was running on fumes and pride alone as he hit the canvas again. And as the next assault began, Barrera's corner finally made the call. It's over. The unknown Filipino has just destroyed Mexico's finest. That night, Manny Pacquiao became the first Filipino and first Asian to win world titles in 3 different weight divisions. But more than that, this was the moment the boxing world witnessed a fearless fighter in Manny, who against the odds walked into hostile territory, systematically broke down a respected boxing hero of his country, and walked out of that ring not just with a win, but with the beginning of something bigger than anyone expected. He also earned himself a new nickname, the Mexicutioner. And trust me, he was just getting started.
Barrios, of all the title holders that are out there, is probably the
Enjoy hundreds of pesos off with code PANDA100.
Because he only doesn't play basketball in the world. He's this big.
So all you had to do was just run 3 guys at him, and every time he tried to attack the basket, knock him on his butt. And make him go to the free throw line and wear him down.
So all that running they did, I shake their hand. They're just winners. They won the series. Give them credit. They got old. They got past us, but okay, move on.
Before the 1991 season, Michael Jordan had endured years of punishment at the hands of the Detroit Pistons. Every season ended the same way. Bruises, heartbreak, and Bill Laimbeer enforcing the now famous defense built to stop Jordan. Laimbeer built his reputation on intimidation and rough play. If Jordan drove the lane, Laimbeer made sure he paid for it. But in Game 4 of the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals, Chicago wasn't just competing with Detroit anymore. They were dominating them. Jordan had absorbed every foul, every cheap shot, every brutal lesson the Pistons threw his way. And now, with the sweep in sight, he unleashed all of it back on the very man who tried to break him. Laimbeer's job was to destroy Jordan, yet on that day, it was Jordan who destroyed Laimbeer. He attacked the paint fearlessly, finishing through contact, and made Detroit's enforcer look helpless. The Bad Boys dynasty collapsed in front of their home crowd, and Laimbeer could do nothing but watch as Jordan rose above them all. This wasn't just a victory, it was a coronation for his airness. The day Michael Jordan buried the Pistons' reign and left Bill Laimbeer's career done for. To understand what made Game 4 in 1991 so significant, you first have to understand who the Pistons were and who Bill Laimbeer was. The Detroit Pistons of the late 1980s weren't just another team. They were a culture, a mentality, an identity built on toughness and intimidation. The name Bad Boys wasn't an accident. They wore it proudly, and no one embodied it more than Laimbeer.
I never really ever liked Laimbeer in any social situation. No. Yeah. And it's because he was a dirty player. Right. He had to do what he had to do, I understand that. But you take like Ricky Malone, he'd hit you and all that, but he'd hit you, you know he could get hit. Yeah, he didn't try to maim you. Right. He didn't try to hurt you. Right. And, you know, he's one of the guys, you shoot a jumper, you try to slide his foot underneath your ankle, so you twist your ankle on. That's why Paris was doing that. You watch any of our old games, Paris was always twisting his ankle against the Pistons.
Laimbeer was never the most athletic player on the court. He didn't soar through the air. He didn't break defenders down with flashy handles. What he did bring was brute force, a willingness to play the villain, and a talent for getting under opponent's skin. If he drove to the basket, he made sure he remembered it. Hard fouls, elbows, shoves, whatever it took. Laimbeer was there to enforce the message.
Bill Laimbeer was about the team and winning. It took me until I came to my second SAG return, that means 60, and it made me realize that Bill Laimbeer was the person who carved and chiseled steel against steel. It was like, you have all this talent, stop wasting it. That's what he told you? Yeah, he said, hey, why do you miss 5 shots? I said, what? He said, they're free, and you can shoot. Put the ball in the basket. Every basket is worth $100,000 or $10,000. Mm-hmm. Man, I went from 68 to 79 to 80 because he would, and he didn't try to be my friend. He was the vet he was supposed to be. I didn't like a lot of things he did, but, the proof is in the pudding.
And when it came to Michael Jordan, that message was simple. You're not getting through us. Laimbeer was the anchor of a defense designed to wear Jordan down, body after body, foul after foul. For a few years, it worked. The Pistons knocked the Bulls out of the playoffs 3 straight times. Every time, Laimbeer's presence loomed large. A reminder that skill alone wouldn't beat Detroit.
How are they doing it? They must have some trick. Oh, it's the Jordan rules. They got this secret Jordan rules.
The Jordan rules. That's how we got made up.
Jordan rule? No, I don't know what that is.
It was like the Vinci Code, the formulas of Coca-Cola, and the Jordan rules.
You're not going to give me a game plan away on television.
But stopping Jordan wasn't just about brute strength. The Pistons had an entire playbook dedicated to him. A defensive scheme so ruthless it became legendary. They called it the Jordan rules, and Laimbeer wasn't just part of it. He was one of the main players.
This is what the Jordan rules were. On the wings, we're going to push him to the elbow, and we're not going to let him drive to the baseline. Number 2, when he's on top, we're going to influence him to his left. When he got the ball in the low post, we're going to trap him from the top. That's the Jordan rules, and it was that simple.
Where after we got it?
That's when Laimbeer and Malone would go up and knock the ground to the ground.
The Pistons didn't just play Michael Jordan. They built a manual for stopping him. It was called the Jordan Rules, and it was as physical as it was psychological. On paper, it sounded simple. Force Jordan left, trapped him hard on the wing, and when he drove inside, made him pay with contact. But in practice, it was war. Bill Laimbeer was the face of that war. He didn't care if it meant 6 fouls or a bloody nose. His job was to send Jordan crashing to the floor. The Pistons believed that if they made every possession a fight, Jordan's brilliance would eventually collapse under the weight of bruises and frustration.
As soon as he steps in the paint, hit him. So big look. So this is a Jordan move. Every time you move the basket, put him around. When he comes to the basket, he ain't gonna dunk. We're gonna hit you. You're gonna be on the ground. We're trying to physically hurt Michael.
And no place to go.
To the Pistons, it wasn't dirty basketball. It was a defensive masterclass. They knew Jordan was too skilled, too athletic to be stopped by conventional defense. So they invented an unconventional defense. And Lambier, with his size and willingness to be the villain, was the perfect soldier for it.
They were called Jordan rules, but they're defensive rules. They were about defense. And at that time, you wasn't going to give away your game plan or your formulas of how you're defending and stopping someone. So, yeah, they called them Jordan rules.
But here's the thing about the Jordan rules. They created the very monster they feared. Every shove, every foul, every playoff heartbreak pushed Jordan to evolve. He added muscle, sharpened his mind, and transformed his game so the rules no longer applied. By 1991, the playbook that once slowed him was outdated. The same physicality that had slowed him down only fueled his determination. And standing in his way, once again, was Bill Lambier, ready to enforce the rules, but about to realize they no longer worked. However, the late 1980s were a painful education for Michael Jordan. Time after time, he soared into the playoffs with MVP seasons, highlight reels, and the aura of a superstar, only to be slammed back to earth by the Pistons. 3 straight years, Detroit ended his season. Every loss stung, every bruise lingered, and every foul from Lambier and company reinforced the same message: not yet.
The Chicago Bulls in 20 of his 90, 31% for Michael Jordan and 31 is your title climb. Michael Jordan here in the midst of the celebration. What do you say to the other players, Mike?
All you do is push it up. I mean, we fought hard. They were the better team. We went to a 7-game series. What more could I ask for? We want to be where they are. But we still got to go out there. We still trying to improve our team. They were the better team, and they play better today.
But Jordan wasn't wired to accept it. Instead of folding, he transformed. He hit the weight room, added muscle to absorb the physicality. He worked on his post game, making it harder for defenders to force him off his spots. He sharpened his decision-making, trusting teammates instead of forcing everything himself. By 1991, the difference was undeniable. Jordan wasn't just an elite scorer anymore. He was the ultimate competitor, equal parts skill, strength, and leadership. The Bulls had matured with them. Scottie Pippen was coming into his own. Horace Grant gave them muscle inside. Bill Jackson's triangle offense gave Jordan the framework to trust the system.
Back in those days, you had to go through them, around them, over them, under them. You had to develop all those things. So the Detroit Pistons were his main nemesis, but it was also like he wanted to be known as the most dominant player ever. Michael was up for anybody. He didn't care. Every game, every practice, every off day was circled on Michael's calendar. He would go into practice wanting to destroy anybody and everybody in practice. And he said, the harder I practice, the easier the game will become. He did everything to an extreme so it would actually make the games much easier for him. It worked.
The Pistons were still tough, still physical, and still mean. But for the first time, Jordan wasn't playing their game. He was imposing his own. And as the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals unfolded, it became clear. The Bulls weren't the team being bullied anymore. Game 4 in Detroit would be the exclamation point. The moment Jordan showed Lambier and the Bad Boys that their reign of intimidation was over. May 27th, 1991, the Palace of Auburn Hills. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals wasn't about survival. It was about inevitability. From the opening tip, it was clear the Bulls weren't just trying to win. They were there to bury the Pistons once and for all. Chicago came out hot, hitting shots, moving the ball, and smothering Detroit on defense. Every possession felt like the Bulls were in complete command.
Johnson also in the lineup. And those 8 by 6 as we get started in the second quarter. Jordan from deep. Michael Jordan.
And at the center of it all was Michael Jordan. He was forcing the issue. He was dictating it. Jumpers from mid-range, fadeaways over defenders, drives that split the lane. Jordan scored from anywhere he wanted on the floor. Detroit threw bodies at him, but it didn't matter. When they crowded him on the perimeter, he rose up and hit tough shots in their faces. When they tried to pack the paint, he slipped through and drew fouls, walking calmly to the line.
He had applied that from downtown. He has 7. Jordan foul by Thomas.
Very aggressive drive by Jordan, but also a very aggressive drive defensively. I don't know why they would complain on that call. They had 2 guys grabbed him on the arm. And Michael deserves to go to the line on this one. A lot of times I don't agree with the official with Michael Jordan. The Pistons missed simply in the first quarter.
Bill Laimbeer was supposed to be the last line of defense, but he looked powerless. Time after time, the Bulls attacked the rim, absorbed contact, and still finished. And when the whistle blew, it only added to Detroit's frustration. The harder they hit him, the sharper he became.
Nice play at all. And Laimbeer taking a shot at Paxson, did not like it. John Paxson went back at Bill Laimbeer. He did not like the shot given by Laimbeer. Certainly unnecessary.
Well, Paxson also was the player that was...
By halftime, the Pistons weren't just trailing on the scoreboard. They were unraveling in spirit. Their physicality had no effect. Their schemes had no answers. And their enforcer was being targeted possession after possession. The Bulls, on the other hand, looked free, confident, in total control. This wasn't just Chicago stealing a win in Detroit. It was Michael Jordan putting the Pistons dynasty on trial and making it clear the verdict was already decided.
He'll score if he has to. And he would rather feed the ball off. And Pippen, turnabout is fair play. And their defense right now is doing it. The Bulls energy.
For years, Bill Laimbeer had been the face of the Pistons' toughness. He thrived on making opponents uncomfortable, throwing his weight around and dictating the tone of the game. But on this day, in front of the Detroit faithful, he looked like a shadow of the enforcer he once was.
You've had some personal experience in that area.
I've had personal experiences with all of them.
Apparently he has now called a double technical on Laimbeer and Paxson. Personal foul was charged to Isaiah Thomas.
From the start, the Pistons were on edge. Jordan attacked the basket without fear, hitting shots off from anywhere he wanted. Detroit's defenders had no answers. Every drive into the lane drew contact. Every jumper seemed effortless, and the whistles piled up. The Pistons responded the only way they knew how, by going harder, playing more physical, and trying to rattle them with force. But instead of intimidating, it only exposed their frustration.
That was called on Laimbeer, and you'll see the combination of Pippen goes to the crowd, Rodman from behind, and Laimbeer from the side, pusher.
Meanwhile, Jordan was in complete command. With Laimbeer sidelined, Detroit lost its edge, and Jordan exploited every crack in the defense. Each whistle against Detroit felt heavier than the last, a reminder that their old tactics no longer worked. And the worst part, Jordan made it look effortless.
Here is Jordan. Isaiah trying to get back, but Michael for 2 more for his total of 16.
The real humiliation wasn't just in Jordan's scoring. It was in how powerless Laimbeer looked. Every foul he committed chipped away at the Pistons' aura of toughness. Every trip Jordan took to the line silenced the crowd that once thrived on Detroit's physical dominance. Laimbeer wasn't dictating the game anymore. He was reacting, frustrated, and reduced to sitting and watching as the torch was being passed. By the fourth quarter, the humiliation was complete. The Palace crowd, once fueled by Laimbeer's hard fouls and Detroit's swagger, sat stunned. They weren't watching the bad boys bully their way to another win. They were watching Jordan flip the script, attacking without fear, dictating every possession, and forcing Laimbeer into irrelevance. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was symbolic. Laimbeer's struggles told the story. Intimidation had failed. The Jordan rules were broken, and the Pistons' empire was crumbling in real time.
A technical foul has just been called. That was on Rodman. That was his first technical. Earlier, Laimbeer was hit, as was Paxson. Bailey and Zimmer all hit the tees.
In the closing moments of Game 4, history wasn't just written on the scoreboard. It was etched into the legacy of the Detroit Pistons. With the Bulls finally sweeping their longtime tormentors, the spotlight should have been on Chicago's ascension. But instead, Bill Laimbeer and the Pistons shifted the story with a gesture that would follow them forever: the infamous walkout. With 17 seconds still left on the clock, Laimbeer urged his teammates to head for the tunnel. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Mark Aguirre, and others followed. They walked past Michael Jordan and the Bulls not so much as a handshake. Their faces stoic, their backs turned. For Laimbeer, it was a final show of defiance. But for everyone else watching, it was something different. The ultimate act of bad sportsmanship.
I think Magic Johnson really getting fired up about it. And really getting tough. Well, I think the crowd is cheering here for the Bulls right now. And the Pistons as they lead the point.
Good day for a date. Bad day for a date. Maka-dandruff yan. Mag-Head and Shoulders every day. Prevent dandruff and kitty from coming back. So you're up to 100% dandruff-free every day. Head and Shoulders.
Sa negosyo, dapat daily lang for me. Kumatagal ba mag-exchange oil, kaya mas din.
And the Pistons leading us for the Pistons as they are headed off as time runs down. Pistons wasting no time in getting out of here. Now timeout was called. They left the bench with only 7, 9, 10 seconds remaining. The Pistons dismissed. That's a three-pointer. With 4 and 9 seconds remaining.
What stung most wasn't just the disrespect of Jordan and the Bulls. It was what it revealed about the Pistons' character at that moment. Rather than acknowledging defeat to a rival who had earned it, they chose bitterness. That decision turned into the lasting memory of their era. Decades later, the Bad Boys are remembered not just for their titles or their physical play, but for that one walkout that painted them as sore losers, unwilling to face the end.
So, what happened is, Bill leans over and says, let's hand them, Eastern Capital, let's hand them the torch like it was handed to us. 1988, Adrian Dantley's on the foul line in the Silverdome. And all of a sudden, all the Celtics start walking through us as guys on the foul line. Celtics leaving the court, Larry Bird, Parrish, Isaiah standing there, and we're just watching these guys walk off while AD is taking a foul shot. And out of the blue, Kevin McHale looks back at Isaiah and says, bring the trophy back to the East, and gives him a 5 and walks through.
Meanwhile, Jordan didn't need to say much. His performance had done the talking, and the Pistons' silent retreat only magnified his triumph. As he stood tall, the narrative shifted permanently. The Bulls were the new kings, and the Pistons' refusal to show grace in defeat ensured their fall would be remembered with a shadow of shame. The walkout didn't just end the game, it scarred the Pistons' legacy forever. But not everyone saw it the same way. Isaiah Thomas, the Pistons' floor general, later tried to explain the decision, offering his side of the story.
So, you know, when we walked off, and Laimbeer said, I'm not shaking their hands, and this is how we roll. We roll as a team. We roll as a group. You know, it's one for all for one. You know, and Laimbeer's like, this is what we're doing, so you fall in line. And that's right. None of us knew that the camera would be on you, and
right.
This is supposed to be a passing of the torch. Shannon, that is some BS, ain't nothing, you know, torch pass and glorious moment and all that. All that narrative around that was just total made up BS to make one team or one player look bad or another look good.
The walkout wasn't just a bad look in the final moments. It was the beginning of the end for the Bad Boys. After 3 straight finals appearances and back-to-back championships, the Pistons dynasty unraveled almost overnight. That Game 4 sweep wasn't just a loss. It was a statement that the Bulls had taken full control of the East, and Detroit was never getting it back.
I cried for a year and a half about how bad we were for the game, but more importantly, because we're bad people. We weren't bad people. We're just basketball players winning. And that really stuck with me because they didn't know who we were or what we were about as individuals in our family life. So all that whining they did, I shake their hand. They're just whiners. They won the series, give them credit. We got old. They got past us, but okay, move on.
Do you regret now not shaking your hand? Did you stand by
No.
that?
Well, but I regret now today. I don't care what the media says about them. I never did. If I did, I'd be a basket case, especially back then. So, I was about winning basketball games and winning championships and did whatever I had to do to get the most out of my ability and our team, and we did it. At the end of the day, we're called world champions.
Bill Laimbeer, who had once thrived as the Pistons' enforcer, was visibly slowed down. His physical edge no longer enough to change games. Isaiah Thomas, battling mounting injuries, couldn't carry the offense the way he once had. Even Joe Dumars, still a steady presence, couldn't make up for the cracks forming in the foundation. The ferocity that once defined Detroit now looked desperate. Fouls that once intimidated opponents seemed ineffective against Jordan's composure and the Bulls' poise. By the following season, the Pistons were no longer contenders. The window had slammed shut. The Jordan rules that once frustrated Chicago were powerless, and the rest of the league began catching on too. Detroit's fall was swift, and it coincided directly with Chicago's rise. What made it worse was that the Pistons' final act, that infamous walkout, overshadowed their years of dominance. Instead of being celebrated as a gritty champion that pushed Jordan to greatness, they were remembered as a team that couldn't handle defeat. The sweep didn't just eliminate them from the playoffs, it eliminated them from relevance. In that sense, the collapse of the Pistons wasn't just about basketball, it was about legacy. They had built their reputation on toughness and pride, but in the end, it was their refusal to show respect that defined their downfall. And a year later, after the series sweep, Laimbeer still had some words to say to Michael.
Who's he? I mean, he doesn't play basketball in the world. He's this big. I mean, he may be up there because he has publicists and media and pumping him up. But as an individual down-to-earth, hard person, he has... Well, who is he? Who cares about him? Let's say it's a guy that's in a team. Everybody's got their team. You got a team, I got a team, Bill Laimbeer's got a team. It's going to be totally different at certain times. So it didn't bother me to see other people give their opinions about certain things. If you're going to have my opinion on the game team, but it doesn't bother me as a person in terms of what I have to do in the basketball court and go out and play. And I'm aware of what his opinions are, but it's not going to affect the way I live.
For Michael Jordan, this wasn't just another playoff series. It was the turning point. For years, the Pistons had been his wall, the one team that could bruise him, frustrate him, and deny him a shot at the finals. But on that May afternoon in 1991, the wall finally crumbled. And standing above the rubble was Jordan, crowned as the unquestioned king of the East. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just the numbers. Though Jordan's 29 points and complete control of the floor set play, it was the symbolism. He had been tested by the most physical, punishing defense in basketball. He had endured the Jordan rules, the elbows, the hard fouls, and the constant mental warfare. And now he had